Diane Sanfilippo, welcome to Women's Wellness Radio.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. I was just reading over your bio before we started, and your very famous book, Practical Paleo, came out in 2016. I feel like it came out so long ago. Is that how
No,
you
that's
feel?
the second edition. The
Okay.
second edition. Yeah, the first edition came out in 2012.
Okay. I
Yeah,
was
you're
like,
not
I'm on a
imagining things.
time warp or something. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I guess I haven't seen the second edition. So that book was on the New York Times bestseller for what was it? How many weeks?
a lot of weeks. Close to 100 weeks. So it was almost like 2
Wow.
years kind of on and off. Yeah.
Oh, here
Yeah.
it is, 97 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so amazing. Yeah, it's such
It's
a great
crazy.
resource. And some other people may have seen your Mediterranean Paleo Cooking book, which is awesome. If you haven't checked that one out, it's some really fun recipes. So I don't know if you remember me, but I saw you speak recently in Phoenix at your book tour. And I know you'd have to see like a million people. I was there with a kid, so I was sort of the only one, I think. But you were so fabulous, and I'm really glad I went because I got a sense of your energy and just what you're all about. So, yeah, that was super fun. Tell us about the book tour. Tell us about the new book.
Well, the book tour, I mean, I'm extremely fortunate to be able to go on a tour like that. It's definitely, I don't know that most people understand that, it's a big expense to go and travel like that. Obviously, that I don't have any like super secret way to do it without spending what everyone spends, and luckily had some sponsors to help support that. And of course, the publisher to help a bit as well. But, you know, when I first started doing all of this in 2012, a lot of bookstores didn't know who I was and either said no or I had to call myself. Like there wasn't somebody, myself, my husband were calling. And when I very first did a book tour, I was actually in gyms and CrossFit gyms and selling my own books. So when you ask, like, what's it like? It's very surreal to now look back on the fact that I went to 19 cities in about fewer than 30 days. I don't know how many days it was in total, but it was 19 cities. And the fact that, I was able to do this in bookstores, many independent stores, and have, so many people show up like yourself, be present in the room there. I think it's just such an amazing testimony to what these different communities of health-minded, health-oriented people are showing up for these days, because, we can all flick, scroll through social media and people get very attracted to, I don't know, just a beauty culture or something where it's like the celebrity culture. And I don't want to, name names, but I think we just all know these folks who are out there kind of famous for looking a certain way. And I just find it so grounding and so cool that folks like yourself, obviously, you bring your kid or somebody brings a significant other or a friend who needs to hear the message and come and sit for an hour and talk about nutrition, or an hour and a half and talk about nutrition and health and just being better and self-improvement and all of that. So I don't know, I'm just very grateful for it. It's very easy to get stuck behind the computer and behind the internet and never really get out there and connect. And one of the things that I'm constantly talking about with women who I work with and, through coaching, I do a lot now of business coaching with health coaches versus more direct one-on-one with, the end client in a sense. I talk to them a lot about getting out and connecting in their community. And for me right now, that's what it looks like. It's not necessarily a seminar or something where I'm teaching about health. I'm just around talking about my book. But as you noticed, it's an energy exchange, and the way that you feel about me as a person that you're going to follow and, listen to about anything is just totally different when you spend time in a room together, whether it's 30 minutes or 3 hours. I think that that's a super important part of the work that I do and that I advocate for everyone to kind of be out there doing. So anyway, I'm just super grateful to have done it, and it was a blast. And now I'm also super grateful to be home. As you can see, I'm like in a house. This is my little office. Lots of light behind me. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it was so fun. I had seen your books and I kind of knew about you, but when I saw you, I came out, in person. I came out and just told me, have you really followed Diane Sanfilippo? She's so fantastic. So it was a lot of fun. And I really appreciated, I just made a comment on a blog you wrote that you you talk about food and you've written a lot about food, but you really show that you're like a very multi-dimensional person and life is not all about food. I thought that was really great. And it's about like fulfilling your mission and kind of following your heart and like growing as a woman. And it was really fantastic. I appreciated that you came out with that energy. But the book you talked about was sort of about food, but also about energy, because a lot of us are addicted to sugar for one reason, because it's just all around us, or we're tired, or it makes us feel happy for a few minutes, or probably a long list of things. So your book, you have a whole series of 21-day sugar detox books. And this most recent one is called the workbook. What's it called?
Daily Guide.
Daily Guide. Okay. So yeah, tell us about this whole suite of books and how it got started.
So way back, before Practical Paleo was actually published, which that was in August of 2012 originally, I wrote the 21-Day Sugar Detox as an ebook program. And that was originally in April of 2010. So now we're actually coming up on 8 years ago that I first released that as an ebook. Now, I went through and wrote Practical Paleo. That was the thing that was kind of just burning for me at that time. And I had been teaching seminars around the country, live in person, 3-hour, 4-hour, full day seminars about nutrition. And, I got through the process of writing Practical Paleo, and like not a minute after that did my publisher say, hey, what about that sugar detox program you created? Can we, talk about publishing that? As, people end up doing when you write one book, somehow your publisher just comes knocking for another one. So, which I'm, again, very fortunate for that as well. But so that got published in print October of 2013. The original, it's called the 21-Day Sugar Detox, How to Bust Sugar and Carb Cravings Naturally. That book also did make the New York Times bestseller list for the month of January that followed that. So that was amazing. And I also released a cookbook. So just kind of a companion. Those two books were released 2 months apart. I definitely don't recommend doing that. That was insane. But those two were released late 2013. And then for the next 3+ years, I just kind of continued to support the community, had those books out there, and sat back and paid attention to what was happening with the community. So first and foremost, from those two books and the time that I had in between there, I actually launched a coaches program. So I had the 21-Day Sugar Detox coaches program, which we're actually opening up again, like basically right now. So it's a program that I open just once a year, but we launched that. I want to say it was a year after the books came out. It was at the end of 2014, originally, when we launched the coaches program. So I had coaches, still have coaches that I listen to, pay attention to what their participants are going through, listen and pay attention to what's going on in the community, seeing where people are succeeding and where they're struggling. I'm just observing how people interact with the program. And so I know that people always respond to recipes. Everybody always wants more recipes, and I'm happy to make recipes, but I also think there's a certain point at which it's not really that people need recipes. They just want inspiration and something to get them excited. But also what I saw over the last several years was that often people would sort of fall off the program for reasons that truly had nothing to do with the food. And I would say 80 to 90% of the time, it really had nothing to do with the actual food. And I think for most of us, we probably find that when we don't stick to something that we say we're going to do, it's not really, I don't want to say that, like, let's say you decide you're going to go to some exercise class and then you just find that you don't like it. Okay, that's the fault of the class. It's a mismatch, right? But it's not really that like the class wasn't there anymore or it wasn't doing what it said it was going to do. So what I mean by that is it's not like the program wasn't working or was failing people. It was just that I needed to dig into the mindset piece and support people really differently each day of the program. So in the first version of the book, I had an outline of what to expect day by day. And that's exactly what it was called, What to Expect Day by Day. And I started people day 0 and I carried you through day 22. And I thought that was just so great that I started you a whole day before and finished you a whole day after and told you a couple of things about what you might expect and kind of how to deal with it. But what I noticed was throughout the 3 weeks of the program, people obviously continue to have similar experiences day to day. There's different, some things will hit one day or another for different people, but the shared experience is very, very similar across the board. And if I could actually, instead of asking people to read 50 to 100 pages about what they're going to feel and how that's going to go and what to do about it before they start, what if I give people information on a need-to-know basis? What if I actually, and so this idea came up, myself and my team, we were meeting over the winter. I guess it was right after the Practical Paleo tour I did. So it was winter of 2016. We're meeting and we all had our planners in front of us. And it kind of hit me looking at the way we all organize our lives. Like we open up a planner and we're like, what's going on today? And I just kind of thought, what if I give people that with the 21-day sugar detox, where I tell you, here's how you're going to feel today. Here's what to expect. Here's how to deal with it. Here's how to think about it differently. What to do, practically speaking, in terms of like arranging your day, getting your meals prepped, all of the things that you need to do so that when something pops up in terms of like, maybe it's just a slip in motivation, or it's a friend's birthday and you're going out to this really fancy restaurant. This just happened in our Sugar Detox group that we have on Facebook. When you're dealing with a moment of challenge, the book is truly guiding you through each day. It's creepy sometimes because people are like, Diane, how are you in my head? How did you know I'd be thinking that? I was like, girl, I have done this for 8 years.
How did you know I was constipated, Diane?
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, how did you know I was thinking I was ready to give up on day 18? Because I'm like, I know, I got you. Like, I have seen thousands of you, and the cool thing is, for as much as we love to feel unique, the cool thing is we're really not that different. And so I can support people from this core sense of, here's probably how you're going to feel on day 7. And it might be day 6 for you, and it might be day 8 or 9. But for the most part, if I walk you through each day, then you can read it either the night before or while you sit down with your coffee in the morning, and you just feel so much more supported. Now, as I mentioned, I have coaches, with certified coaches who do that as well. And I don't think that a book really ever takes the place of that human interaction or that experience. And so our coaches can also use the book to guide their participants through. People always still have questions. People always still want to reach out and connect. And I think that that's fantastic. And I love it. I just really want that person who might not be that one who wants to reach out and connect to feel extremely supported in getting through the program without just white knuckling it, following a yes/no list, and then feeling like, okay, day 22 comes, now what? Really being challenged to reflect each day of the process. And that's really what the journal element is all about. Because you might hit day 10 and, slip up and pop a grape in your mouth while you're making your kids lunch. And instead of feeling like, well, I just blew it, I should just eat, ho-hos and Twinkies and whatever for the rest of the day, I'm giving you the time and space to reflect on that, see what's really happening, and just pull yourself back up, because this is how we sort of train for life, right? I mean, we're constantly knocked down, and I just don't want people to feel like they don't have the tools and resources to just assess and move forward anytime there's just a little blip, along the way. So that was kind of the motivation behind having this third book. And I've been overwhelmed by the response. I think people are feeling very supported, and I just absolutely love seeing that. It's just been really, really fun. And like I said, it had been, almost 4 years since I had published a brand new title. And that was an interesting process for me too, because I redid Practical Paleo, and Mediterranean Paleo Cooking is a book I co-authored. So the topic and the concept and most of the content for that wasn't like of my being, but this was born of myself, if that makes sense. So I don't know how else to explain it, but yeah, so it was an interesting
You had some time to like really put some reflection into it, it sounds like. And it
was a lot of reflection. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I love the new book.
Yeah, because I know you said when I saw you speak, like you're like all of us entrepreneurs, like you have a lot of ideas going on, but you
Mhm.
stuck through it. And I want to make a few comments on what you said. One is that what you're describing is real coaching. And I love to see real coaching. That's often the hardest part. And it's sort of less sexy, so to speak. Like we're actually retooling our own private coaching program for functional medicine because it's great content. It's great. But I just see kind of some of the things you describe. Like I see people get overwhelmed or get tripped up on something. And it's really our job to anticipate that in the future and to work through it. And then what you said with the cleanse, it's so true. I've led probably about 5 group cleanses. And yeah, it's usually, I don't know about your cleanse, but, headaches and some overwhelm the first few days. And then maybe by day 7, people are feeling really good and stoked on it. But yeah, then they eventually get bored and like, why am I still doing this? So I did get better at anticipating. And then I wanted to make one last comment that I recently did a colleagues cleanse. I actually didn't finish it, but part of the reason was, I read the guide beforehand and then I started it on Monday, my work week. And, a few days in, I was just hypoglycemic. I just wasn't feeling good. And I really just kind of didn't have the mental energy to go flip through the book and see, I could have been adding some things to my diet. I just didn't I was just in it and I didn't really process. So in the end, I don't think it was the right cleanse for me. But at the same time, if I had seen, okay, it's day 3, this is maybe how you're feeling, and this is some adjustment you can make.
Right.
I think that, there's a better chance of me sticking with it and feeling good about it.
And, for me, I wouldn't ever fault someone for not being able to communicate that or anticipate that, especially if you put out a program and it's pretty new. But I've had, at the point of writing this book, I had at least 6 years of watching people go through the program. And for me, when I watch somebody have a moment of failure or bail on the program, there's always a time when it's just not right for somebody, or it's a mismatch, or it's triggering for them, or what have you. But if it's a matter of they were ill prepared or didn't have the information they needed in order to make a better, more informed, more educated, well-rounded decision for themselves, then I see that as just a matter of I haven't given them the information that they need, or I haven't given it in a way that's helpful for them. And so that was a really important part for me because I did cover a lot of similar content. Really the new book is mostly new content. There's a few things that, of course, I'm going to say again about how food works in the body and all of that. But I really didn't use anything I had written before for the vast majority of it. I just kind of sat down with what I saw people going through each day. And, I think that there's a matter of an amount of time to prepare. So you mentioned you had started on a Monday, and we usually recommend that people do start a program on a Monday. You've had the weekend to prepare, but with the new daily guide, I'm having people prepare for an entire week. And a lot of people think it's excessive, but I'll tell you, the people I've seen with the most success, the people I've seen with the best experience coming out of the program, they're not only following the pre-detox week, just reading, getting their head on straight, learning a little bit. There's not that much to actually do to prepare yourself, a full week ahead. It really only starts 4 and 3 and 2 days ahead in terms of grocery shopping or ordering things online or prepping some food. But doing that prep work sets you up for success. There's just no way around it. You don't just run a marathon Monday. It's you train for weeks and months to run a marathon. And so while this is not as grueling as running a marathon, I would like to say, it does require some prep, because especially if this is really different from what you normally eat. And I'll say too, sometimes people think it's not that different from what they normally eat. And so they kind of shrug off the prep. And I'm like, listen, it's cute that you want to start tomorrow. That's cute, but it's not going to work. I mean, there are just so many reasons, not only practically speaking, getting the food ready, but getting your head on straight about why you're doing this, what's going on in your body, what is your why, really digging into that. That stuff is so important. And then following through on the week after, like I said, not just saying, okay, it's day 22, bring on the pizza and beer, because that is not how we create lasting change. We create lasting change by actually teaching people how to get through everyday life. And a big part of that is not really telling them exactly what to do. it's helping them learn how to think about things differently for themselves on a day-to-day basis. And, I think part of that is probably what a lot of parents are doing with their children. You can't always tell them exactly what to do. They have to make a decision on their own. And giving people that executive control of their own lives is extremely important to me. Sometimes people get upset that I won't answer a question or won't tell them exactly what to do. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be here all the time. You can't direct message me all hours of your life. Like, you need to form the ability to make,
that's a great point. Yeah. A lot of people are like, well, can I have this mustard, or can I, just little things. It's like, it's not going to make or break anything. So just use your judgment and
use your judgment is probably an expression that people have not heard enough, or they have not developed the muscle of judgment. I'm an ENTJ, so it's like in my blood to have judgment, and not in a I'm judging you kind of way, but just in a constant analytical process of what's the best decision or the best informed decision I can make at any given time. And I think that that's something that all developed human adults need to start working on, because we've outsourced decision making far too much. So wow. Even though I have a program with a yes/no list, there will always be gray area. You know what I mean? There's always going to be a new product. Like this week is a natural product expo, and there's always going to be a new product that somebody says, can I have this? And I'm not, literally my response is, can you? I don't know. Can you? What are the rules that you're following? What level are you on? And what does your squishy thing inside your skull tell you to do? Because I really think, because there was something recently that came up and it looked okay to us, but the person said it tasted really sweet. Then we later found out that this is something I didn't know. I had always known natural flavors to not be able to include something that was a sweetener. So, it's tough to make a lot of rulings about every product out there. So we don't have a hard no on natural flavors, because sometimes natural flavors just means extracts, or it's a proprietary blend of something. And, the food manufacturer wants to not tell everyone in the world everything that they're doing. However, natural flavors is also a way to hide ingredients that some food manufacturers don't want people to know about. And I recently found out that monk fruit, which is a sweetener, it's a non-caloric sweetener, and there are no sweeteners allowed on the program. Monk fruit can be hidden under natural flavoring right now. Maybe it won't be able to at some point in time, but because it's so new to the market, and that's a problem, because we can't really regulate that no matter how strict our rules are. So there's always this caveat of is it on the yes/no list, or any of the ingredients on the no list? And also, does it taste sweet to you? Oh my gosh, mind blowing. Does it taste sweet to you? And I'm not talking about the green tip banana or the green apple or the grapefruit that on day 1 didn't taste that sweet, and on day 20 tastes, sweet, and so you shouldn't have it. No, but day 1, does this thing taste sweet to you? The difference. And also, I just can't police people to that level of minutia 24/7. There has to be a way for people to feel like they can trust themselves and their own judgment. Or the whole premise of having a program like this honestly doesn't teach anyone anything except to rely on a set of rules all the time, which will just ultimately never be the way to move forward.
Yeah, and every cleanse has a goal, right? And your goal is to, in my opinion, kind of detox yourself of that need for a sweet taste, or an awareness of all the sweet additives and flavorings that sneak in all over the place. So I wonder if you can just tell more about what your premise was, and what this entails a bit, that someone may say, hey, I need this, I gotta go get a book.
So the program, I originally created it to help people bust sugar and carb cravings, and to get off the blood sugar roller coaster, to help them even out energy, sleep better, get their moods regulated. It's excellent to help regulate hormone balance when, blood sugar regulation is critical to everything else regarding your health, whether that's something you think is related or not. And this is something that I came to learn through so many different classes, extra courses that I took beyond my nutrition certification. They would talk about something like autoimmunity, but even before addressing thyroid health, for example, we need to address blood sugar regulation and we need to address your digestion. But blood sugar regulation literally always comes first, because if your body is constantly stressed by spikes and dips with blood sugar, if you're constantly stressing your entire system by eating nutrient poor food, bad carbs, as I call them in the book, so carbs that have calories but no nutrition. So they have carbohydrate, the macronutrient, but not a lot of vitamins and minerals. That's where we really get nutrition from. We can get energy from calories, but we can't truly fuel ourselves. We can't fuel that ATP, Krebs cycle, energy producing process in the body without vitamins and minerals. We need that stuff. And so eventually everything in our body starts to break down when we don't have that nutrition properly, coming in. So I wanted to take that approach, like, let's deal with the sugar stuff. That was the thing that I struggled with the most. And that doesn't mean I want people to never eat something sweet again. I can enjoy a Larabar, it's like dates and cashews or dates and peanuts. And I think that stuff is sweet and it's not included on the 21-day sugar detox, but I do want for people to learn something through the process so that we can find a way to come to a new balance when we're finished with the program. It's not about following my rules for the rest of your life. It's not about my rules are constantly the ones that you need to come back to all the time. And I think that ultimately, because of who I am and the way my personality is, I'm happy to give folks a set of rules for 3 weeks and be like, here's what I think will really work to help reset your palate. So the way your taste buds are experiencing everything you're eating. If you're not eating super sweet fruit, that stuff becomes a treat to you again. And how cool is that? That strawberries are now delicious again, and mango, and it no longer feels like it's not enough of a treat, But I do truly want for people to develop, as we were saying, their own sense of judgment and decision-making around what's going on with their life, as well as dig into the self-reflection on why we do things and why we make certain decisions. Because even coming through the program, people feel great. They are having a better time making these decisions, but it doesn't solve every problem of your life, just going through 3 weeks of eating differently, because you probably came through 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I'm really forcing people to dig in and see what's going on and see why, day 7 of the program, you're feeling great. You're at the office and the cupcakes come in for someone's birthday, and it forces you to really dig in and get real with yourself about why you feel deprived in that moment, when really you're an adult. You can have a cupcake anytime you want, and I think that taking a time away from something, which essentially the word detox really does mean 2 things. Like, one, it's giving your body and your liver and your whole system a rest from the sugar, from alcohol. You're not having alcohol in the program or refined grains, giving you a rest. But detox can also mean a time away. A lot of times people say, I'm doing social media detox, and nobody ever says, doesn't your body detox naturally? You don't need to detox from social media. Everybody understands what that means. And it can just mean a time away from it, because that always gives you space to reflect and think differently about the situation. So I really wanted to give people that space to be able to get rid of those cravings, or just pull out the sweet stuff and say, what does eating look like when I can't rely on sweet foods? And I think that's really important, because even something like a ketogenic diet, which is super popular right now, which I think is great for lots of people, for some people it's not the right way to go. But even folks who are eating that way often are relying on a lot of artificial sweeteners. And look, do whatever you want. Honestly, I just don't care what people want to do with their own lives. But I do want to challenge people to say, what would it be like if you didn't put all those sweeteners in, caloric or not, every single day? Can you come to appreciate them more as something that's a bit of a treat versus just an everyday, every meal expectation? And I am not a treat Nazi. I want for people to have treats, but I really want for people to appreciate them in a different way than before.
Yeah, I think there's a health benefit, like balancing your blood sugar and clearing up your skin, losing weight, that people experience. But for me as a coach, the big wins are having this new awareness, not being on that, what do they call it? Seafood diet. If you see it, you eat it. thing.
Yeah.
Learning to cook, like you make all these wonderful recipes, but often
Yep.
people won't do a recipe unless they're forced to.
Right.
You know, on our cleanses, I often had to teach people how to cook a piece of fish because they never had. And I think that's amazing that I got to teach people to cook the first piece of fish. Or even for me, when I did my first cleanse, you have to pack your own food all the time. You eat.
Yeah.
And then I started packing my own lunch, like all the time to work. That's a huge change in my long-term health. So those long-term wins for me.
That's the true empowerment through education and helping people. You know, if for 3 weeks I force you to change your habits, inevitably some of that will stay with you. You know what I mean? You can't unlearn something that you've just learned. You might choose to abandon it for whatever reason, and I can't force people to maintain certain things, but I do think that a lot of it stays with you no matter what. And that for me is kind of the most important piece that, you know, I teach I teach people that they actually can eat differently when they put the effort into it. And over time, I'm sure you found this as well. Obviously, over time, it's not the same effort because you don't think about it as much. You just do it the same way. Whatever you were eating before, you probably didn't think about that very much because it was just your everyday life. So, you know, and I'm sure at the tour stop you were at, somebody probably asked, or maybe I addressed it. It's like, how do you eat when you're traveling? I'm like, the same way I eat when I'm home, in a sense, you know, or I just have a sort of set of rules of here's what I buy at the grocery store. When I arrive to a new town, I go to Whole Foods and I buy the following 10 things every single time. You know, I don't allow myself to create a new set of decisions every time, because the more you have to make decisions, the lower your willpower ends up being. And we don't really have willpower. Is kind of like a made up thing. I think people assume that they can rely on that very often. But if I were traveling for a month, and frankly, you know, I was tired by the end of it, I did not get sick. People were dropping right and left with a really bad flu this January, and I did not. I don't think I bought pretty much any treats on that entire trip. I think I bought a couple of Larabars and they had some chocolate chips in them. Like, listen, if that's a treat to me, I feel like I'm doing pretty well in the world. Do you know
I'd say so. Yeah.
Like we're in such a bubble if we think, well, those are really sweet. You know, there are people out there who are like, girl,
those are disgusting.
Or like, that's not a treat. Like years ago, I remember talking about eating some kind of bar and saying it tastes like a cookie. My trainer, this was probably like 10 years ago, my trainer was like, you have not had a cookie in a while. You know, if I thought this bar thing tasted like a cookie. But, you know, I think that that's a really important part too, is understanding that even though it may be challenging initially and in the moment, it truly does get easier because it's no longer a constant decision-making process at the grocery store. You know, let's say when I go to the store now, 90% of what I'm doing there is autopilot. I literally buy the same things all the time. And I do like to explore. So I'll be like, what's that new thing? And then I read the label and I read the ingredients and I make a judgment on whether or not I'm going to buy that and make a new decision. So there's like 90% of it's not fatiguing, but 10% of it might be, I'm excited to find new things. Yes, I have to make a new decision. Whereas if you imagine the person who's going to the grocery store for the first time on the 21-day sugar detox, for example, who has never eaten anything like this, it's like 99% decision fatigue. And I'm giving people a ton of tools to make it easier, but it's still challenging right out of the gate. But what I do by getting people to prep like 1 day before, 2 days before, now I don't have to have you make those decisions every single day. You've prepped your food ahead of time. You know what to eat. Now I'm just lightening the load on that decision-making process. And that really does help people transition to a place where it's habit instead of constant decision-making.
Nice. Well, I want to talk about your coach training program because a lot of people who listen to this are coaches or healthcare people or studying to be.
Yeah.
So tell us and also give us the time period so I can hopefully publish this in the right time period.
Sure. So actually, where are we right now in time and space? We are early March. So the program opens this month and it'll be open through the end of the month.
Okay.
So this is March 2018. And the course will run April and May. How many weeks it'll be exactly varies just depending on holidays, or if I have something I have to do 1 week and we need to like take an extra break or not. So it's roughly 2 months. It's about 8 modules-ish. Some are more learning than others. But the 21-Day Sugar Detox Coaches Program is not a nutrition certification. So we have folks coming in who already have their nutrition certification, or even like a fitness or health coach, anybody who's working with people in a way or a capacity that helps them to make better decisions and changes in their life in terms of their health. So yoga teachers can do it. Anyone can really do it who has done the 21-Day Sugar Detox. So if you're listening to this and you're like, this sounds interesting, you have to do the 21-Day Sugar Detox at least one time first, because I can't have you pay all this money and say you're going to coach people on a program that you've never experienced, because it is very unique. So that being said, if you're like, okay, well, I haven't done it, do it at some point in the next year, so that next year, if you want to do this, you're ready to go.
Good point.
So there's that. But it's really more of a business program, because what I found when I finished nutrition school many years ago was that I was extremely well equipped to just get out there and start working. I have a background in small business marketing. I was a graphic designer for a time. I've always had my own businesses. And for me to turn my passion into a business is just second nature. I never was I have plenty of my own struggles, but sitting in a place of like, I don't know how to make this a business was never my struggle. I am like bursting with ideas of things to do and people to talk to and ways to connect and get out there and do the work. So for me, like, that's my superpower. And I know that for 95% of people who come through a health program, that is not your superpower. Your superpower is helping people and the passion that you have. And so while I had, a small percentage of that, I recognize that y'all need help, because when you come out and you're like, okay, I have all this information, how do I get it into people's lives? How do I actually make people connect the dots to stop eating, the Twinkies and the Ho-Hos and the Pop-Tarts? Those are just foods I rip on because I used to eat them back in the day. But it's connecting that, like, okay, I know this stuff, I know information, but how do I just get a basic website going and then put together a presentation, or just list my services? How do I price them? Who do I connect with in my community to get out there and start teaching this stuff? That's what we do in this program. It's really a business in a box, in a sense. So
I like that.
Ultimately, as coaches, everyone still has to get out there and talk to that person at the grocery store or the chiropractor's office, which is all stuff that I did when I started my business. I was teaching classes in gyms. I was all over the place, around San Francisco, getting connected in my community. And that's what our coaches are doing. Some of them work out of hospitals, some, it's across the board, the types of work that people do. But this program really takes the guesswork out of it. We give you graphics and pamphlets and presentations if you want to do corporate wellness. So all the stuff that you're like, I just want to teach and help people, but I can't deal with, how stressful it is to like make my website, or what do I post on Instagram, or how do I do all this other stuff? We just take that part out for you and make that, you still have to do the work, but we make it way less stressful. And we also love to build up our coaches in the sense that we invite our coaches to take over our social media, our Instagram, our stories, our Facebook page, and share with people in our community what they do, and just educate them and put themselves in front of a larger audience that they might not already have. I love that as part of what we do as well. And we also love connecting our coaches with brands out there. So, we have relationships. I have relationships with brands and their platforms. Each of these coaches are really new, right? So their platforms aren't as big. And sometimes a brand may or may not be interested. So like olive oil or a geek company, or like Sea Snacks, for example, if you're just starting out, it may be hard for you to approach them and say, hey, can I get some product for my people? But that was one of the things that I did very early on. I connected with different brands when the whole influencer thing didn't really exist. This was before Instagram. I was doing this via Twitter. And it was so great to teach 10 or 20 people in a room and be able to give them some kind of little snack or a little freebie that I didn't have to pay for, because I'm just here trying to do the work, right? Like, I don't want to spend more money on it. So we're connecting our coaches with brands in that way. And it has been so much fun.
Oh my gosh.
They love being able to give out, little samples of oil or ghee, and like, I just think that's so cool that I can use my platform to help lift them up in that way. So our coaches are amazing. They're just such awesome people, and they're just out there doing the work, getting it done, reaching people that I could never reach on my own. And that was really what I set out to do. It was like, I'm obviously not working with people one-on-one at this point. I'm not even teaching nutrition in small groups anymore. But now it's a matter of supporting other people who are out there on the front lines doing the work, whether it's, teaching cooking classes or helping them through the 21-day sugar detox. It's just been super fun to see that whole thing and watching them develop their business and, increase their platform and what they're doing with it, instead of just sitting when they finish their certification, whatever health certification, sitting and stewing. Like, what do I do with this now? We're lighting a fire. We're like, here, get out there. And if a year or two goes by and you're like, okay, I feel like I have an established business and I don't know that I want to coach this program anymore, then cool. We've basically been like an incubator, where we really help you build that confidence to get out in the world with whatever your platform's going to be, because maybe it'll continue to be the 21-day sugar detox, or maybe it'll be something else. And that's, I'm happy with all of it for anyone to do, you know what I mean? To learn from it, go on, or whatever, stay with us. Either way, I love it.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you're connecting with brands. That's a really smart tip. I mean, I think people would be surprised how much you can get when you ask, so to speak. That's huge. And the whole
and when you're small,
Yeah, that's like so cool.
If they know that you're teaching people about the 21-day sugar detox and you have 10 people in your group, they don't need you to have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. They're like, sweet, you're getting our product directly into the hands of people who will then love it and buy it again. Perfect. Like, there's no waste there. You know what I mean? They're not just like throwing this product out into the abyss. They're literally getting it directly into the hands of people you're telling them this is a great product. They're going to buy it. Like,
yeah,
it's a great way to connect people. Yeah.
What's that thing you gave out? The peak tea? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
I really love that. And I was just looking into buying that for a friend. So
there you go. See, they did a great job. They recognized that opening and they came on board as a sponsor after my second event on the tour. So
nice.
Sponsor, and then they connected with our coaches, giving some of our coaches product. The coaches who are actively out there with groups, right? Like, we might have some coaches who are not doing something, and we don't connect people who are not actually working with people in that moment. So we really do reward that activity in a sense. And I think that's super fun. Like, I just love being able to do that.
Yeah, so fun. And I want to say one more thing about the business in a box thing, which is like, even I'm like, somewhat experienced, but like, launching a program is a lot of work, and everything has to look beautiful nowadays. Like, you can't throw out some Word document thing.
Which I did back in the day.
I did too. I totally did.
And I was a designer at the time. I mean, I'm like, once you're a graphic designer, you're never not, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, I'm sure with moms, it's like, once you're a mom, you're never not a mom, no matter whose kid it is, you have that instinct. When I look at things, like, it's always with a design analytical eye, but I put just for those listening who are like, but I can't make it beautiful. I put out that first version in 2010. And I, as a designer, said, if I spin on designing this, I will never get it done. I just needed to get it done and get it out. So I made it in Microsoft Word. It looked nice. Like, it wasn't a mess because I had good taste and I could make it cute enough. But I do think that you're right. Like, it becomes very paralyzing because social media has made it so much easier to compare. And I'm not immune to that. You know what I mean? Like, I really do focus on, and there was actually right now on my computer screen, which I put that up there months ago, it says stay focused, because it's very easy to get distracted by social media. It's very easy to compare yourself. And what you see on the internet is just not always what you get. I mean, I think it's just so important to focus on your own work. And that's something that a lot of people just kind of spin out on. And if I can get people to stop just spinning their wheels and just dig in and do the work, the minute you actually help people, you really do stop that comparison more and more. Because the minute I was out on tour, I was super anxious about going on tour because I hadn't really done it. Like I said, with a new book, I hadn't done it for the Sugar Detox in so many years. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't really know what to expect. Are people going to show up? Like, I just didn't know what to expect. And the minute I was there connecting with people just like you, hearing stories and questions and talking to everyone, all of that just fades away. And so anything I can do to help bridge the gap and get people working with people as soon as possible in a way that feels supportive, like, I just think that that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, because we do have fears putting things out there. Even you're so successfully remitting a fear you had about going on tour.
Yeah,
And I think when you can get some like wins under your belt, I know for
totally.
me, then I'm like, okay. So then I
Hmm.
know like if a launch doesn't go well, I probably just messed up some elements. I don't have to make a huge judgment call over myself.
I mean, that is
Going.
the way that you learn, and that's the only way to get better. I mean, you don't get better by not putting something out there, whether it's just putting yourself out there. You know what I mean? Like if somebody doesn't have an idea for their own course, it's totally fine. You know, for someone who, let's just say you're going to be a sugar detox coach, perfect. The way that you continue to learn and get better is you run a group and you're decide what you're going to teach. We outline everything you can teach for each session of your group. If you want to use our outline, you don't have to. But I know that people are like, well, what do I teach the first day? Okay, here's what to teach. But then what if the next time you're like, you know what? I liked this part and I didn't like this part. That's how you learn, by doing it. But if you never do the first one, there's no space to learn. And I think that that's a really important place to be mindset wise, that if something didn't go as you hoped or expected or wanted, it's just an opening for change and opportunity to improve it. I mean, that is something that, you know, I don't know where that all comes from. I think it just comes from trying things over and over again. But if I can get people to try things, like that is key for me. Really just like kicking people out of the nest.
I love
Get
it.
out
I
there.
love it. I
Do
love
the
that
work.
energy.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you one more thing before you eat your
Okay.
chicken wings. You're
Okay. Chicken wing time.
living the truth and eating your chicken wings.
I'm post spin class, by the way. I literally put some Primally Pure dry shampoo in my hair, shook it out, was like, okay.
Oh, really? No, you look
Yeah.
fabulous, which is actually a great segue because I want to talk about Beauty Counter.
Oh, sure.
I started being a Beauty Counter representative or whatever you call it in December. And I saw you on the blog and doing all this great stuff with Beauty Counter. And yeah, I just love it. So I just would love to hear about your experience with the product. I just read a blog you did on like aging acne prone skin. That's totally me. The products you love. So yeah, just share a bit if you don't mind.
So I originally heard about Beauty Counter from my friend Liz Wolf, who has been my teaching partner and podcast partner for coming up on 7 years, maybe. I hit a point where I was like over 6 years, and now 6.5, I think. So I originally heard about it from her. I was really not into skincare before. I mean, I wanted my skin to look nice and I wore makeup and all of that, but I didn't really know much about skincare or how to choose it or what was like safer aside from coconut oil or tallow, you know, the full other end of the spectrum from like the MAC and the drugstore cosmetics and skincare was what I knew was, you know, food grade stuff, which is great also. But I didn't know there was this middle ground, and that's really where Beauty Counter kind of came in because it was a matter of combining safety with performance, and that was really what I was looking for. I wanted stuff that worked really well for my skin. I wanted cosmetics that, you know, just recently, you know, as you know, Beauty Counter came out with new powder formulas, so like new eyeshadows basically that I could finally get rid of and stop using my potentially very toxic, heavy metal laden eyeshadows, you know, MAC eyeshadows that were beloved to me for many, many years. And so it just became something that I was in love with the product. The product was working great for me. I started using the charcoal bar and the mask and all of that. And so, of course, at that point, then people always ask what I'm using and what I'm loving. And so I went, you know, to share about it. And at that point, I was like, well, this is silly. I need to actually sign up and become a consultant and dig in and learn more. And now I have a team that I, you know, work with and mentor, and I love it. I mean, it's so much fun. It's so much fun to talk about the product. It's so much fun to not only help people find skincare that works for them, that they love and can feel safe and confident using, but also to work with developing people in terms of their own business. So I get to do both sides of that, which is really fun for me. And I love it. I don't know. You know, I've always had multiple businesses, always been an entrepreneur. And it's fun to have a product line that I get to work with that I don't need to like dig in and do all of the development on. So you may or may not know that I actually have a spice line. It's been sold out for a little while, and I'm literally just got a notice that I think that the labels are now shipping. So it's finally going to be coming back in stock. But, you know, that's a product that I developed start to finish, from the recipes and the formulas to, you know, multiple batches to be testing and decide yes or no, create the labels, choose the bottles. everything. And it's super fun, but it's really exhausting.
A lot of work.
And
Yeah.
so it's really fun to have something I can just kind of, I don't know, add to my life. And that's
share. Yeah. Yeah. It's like
it.
play, because it's just like, and I love that it, we're in the health field, it can get a little serious, but makeup is just like fun.
It's more fun. And it is really fun to be connected with like-minded women who are into health, but we're not just talking about food. And it is just a nice little departure from that. So I really do enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I'm not going to their big thing because I have a conflict, but maybe I'll see you at another one of their.
I will be at the conference. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Diane. It was a great conversation, and we're going to promote this hard because I really want people to get to know you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.